if you were here from the first class, we're going to go ahead and get started with our second class. I'm going to tell y'all, just in case some of y'all weren't in the first class, I'm Patty Alderman from Alderman Farms. We have a YouTube channel where I have lots of bread videos up and other farming type stuff. I do want to say this for those of y'all that may not have heard it earlier when I mixed up the Spelt Pita Bread. I forgot to put on the recipe that you may have taken pictures of or written down that I put 1½ teaspoons of flax, ½ teaspoon of chia seeds, 1/4 teaspoon of psyllium husk. So I want to make sure, especially for the people watching on YouTube too, that y'all got that I did add those ingredients extra. And in this class, I'm going to tell you why in just a little bit. You know, there's a lot of different flours that are out there. And it would take a whole conference just to touch on all of them, not to even mention the gluten-free flours. One thing, my friend Julie reminded me that I should tell y'all, because some of y'all may not know this, you know, because she mills her own flour, and I have a mill at home too, and to make flour, well, you know, you can't just mill the grain and get white flour. That takes a lot of bleaching and sifting and stuff like that. So this white flour that I made the bread with earlier, this is not a natural product. There is called a white wheat that is whiter than whole wheat, but it's not. You're not gonna get this. So
and you can Google and get close to it, but you just can't make white flour like white bread you buy in the store.
yeah, it's just very hard to. Then that's what I was going to say. I have the most experience with bacon with white flour and whole wheat flour because that's what I've used most of my baking. It's just been, you know, I guess in the last 10 years, or well, maybe 20 years that I started trying to do some whole wheat because I knew that was better. But anyway, now I don't use any white flour at all in my bacon. But it's important that if you are using white flour and whole wheat flour, you should try and get the best flour you can. One flour that I thought was pretty good, and I'm sure you can find things wrong with it. Of course, it is white, so it's probably went through a bleaching process. Well, no, I think it's unbleached. But anyway, they've gotten it white somehow or another because that's what this is. So, but anyway, it's from Wheat Montana Farms, and I used to order it from Walmart. Not sure if you can still do that now or not. Anyway, it makes a difference in how your bread tastes and turns out, what kind of flour you're using. And of course, your nutritional value of it. You need to try and stay away from the industrial modern wheat. Wheat has been changed over the years, and they've crossed it, I said this before, with grasses and different stuff. And look, if you're interested in that, there's a ton of information out there on the website. People that are way smarter than me and can say all the right words, because I forget all those words once I read them. I just know that it's not the best thing for you. So what you want to try and go with is your ancient grains, like one that I've used is the einkorn. It's good, and to me it's comparable with the regular whole wheat flour. And I was talking with somebody, I forget who it was, but now they have a lighter einkorn too, that's not as heavy and as dense. So that would be another choice too. But that's still not my favorite. Another good flour is rye flour. It's heavier too, just like more whole wheat or the einkorn. And you don't get as much rise with it. And it's got a stronger taste, and I know some people don't care for the taste. I like it. And I do make bread with it for a change, but I do mix it with spelt. And spelt is my favorite. We love spelt. I use it all the time. Some people think spelt does not have gluten in it, but it does have gluten. And it's got, I had read something one time that it don't have as much gluten or something like that. So when I was doing my research for what I want to say, I was looking it up. It has just as much gluten in it as regular wheat does, but it's not been changed. It's an ancient grain. It's not been changed like regular wheat has. So that, therefore, it's better for you, and your body handles it better. You know, they've changed things. They've not made things The wheat the normal wheat that we buy is not the way God made the wheat. You know, they've changed it. But if you go back to your ancient grains, it's like it was then, unless it's just went through a natural change on its own out in the field. You know, because you know, crossing. You know, things can cross like that. I'm not saying that, but it hasn't been genetically modified or changed to grow shorter like grass and stuff like that. And I've been using Spelt exclusively at least a year, if not longer. I want to say it's really been longer than a year, but I make everything with Spelt. And this is some examples that I brought of the bread. This is white bread. Now I made it just like that recipe that I was talking about in the other class. This is just white. This is just flour, water, salt, and yeast, and all of these. This is rye bread. This is wheat bread. All just, and you know, all of this is really in the wheat family. But, you know, this is what we would call wheat bread. And then this is my little Spelt Loaf. And I noticed something with my Spelt. I'm like, you know, when I make my bread, it doesn't turn out pretty like this and nice and dome and everything. But I'm using a regular bread pan like this. So I'm thinking I need to change, not to this small, but you know, they have the other ones that are disposable. I'm thinking because it has, the sides are closer together, so it lets it rise up. This, it'll rise up and it'll kind of get flat on top. Oh, I can show you. This is my sourdough bread that I brought. You see how flat it is on top? I think it's because it don't have the structure. I think it's because it's so wide across the top. If I had it smaller, I would have my little pretty little dome. But anyway, it's edible. It's good. You know. We've been eating it. You can tell. Well, we've eaten sandwiches on it.
It's all the same on a sandwich.
But anyway, but using whole wheat, rye, or Spelt does have its challenges. The bread can be heavier, crumbly, and dry. I'm going to tell you, well, I think I have that written down, so I'll tell you when I get to it on the page, because I get confused when I say stuff that I've already got written down when I get to it. But anyway, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, which is hyperthyroid. And so I had read going gluten-free can help that. And so I did that for about 2 years, and it really did help. I was able to stay off the medicine and everything, because that medicine can cause bad side effects. So I really didn't want to go on the medicine. So that's what I did. And I know that might not work for everybody, but I learned about gluten-free bacon. And yeah, it's not just me. I see y'all fanning. I'm burning up. But anyway, gluten-free bacon, oh, it's so hard because it's dry and it's crumbly. And also, I learned about some different things for gluten-free bacon. I carried that over to the baking I'm doing now. And so I wanted to share that with you. Chia seeds, for instance, that helps to bind everything together. You can add about a teaspoon to your liquid and let it sit for about 20 minutes, and it'll start to even gel. And they have white, I'm using the white chia seeds. They're really not white, but they're whiter. They're not black, so you don't see it in your food. And they're nutritious. Chia seeds are often referred to as a superfood full of fiber, protein, and omega-3 fatty acids. They contain key minerals like calcium and magnesium. 1 tablespoon is packed with 2 grams of protein and 5.5 grams of fiber. Also, let's see, I had skipped something. Oh, the psyllium husk. You can add about a teaspoon of psyllium husk powder to your liquid in your bread recipe, and it functions as a thickener, binding agent, and texture enhancer all in one. And it has good health benefits too. Also ground flax. I'm sure y'all know about flax. That's just like a real, healthy thing now to eat. Everything is healthy for us, that's grown naturally and all. But anyway, we're rediscovering a lot of these things. But ground flax can help with the rise of your bread. Plus, it's good for you. You can add a teaspoon to a tablespoon in your bread. No, this bread don't, but like this bread has flax in it. It's got flax, psyllium husk, chia seeds in it. I always put that in my bread just to add extra nutrients to my bread. Plus, it helps with the texture of it and everything. I think it's fun to slip in extra healthy stuff and things. It just makes it better for you. If you're going to eat good, Well, except when I
She
be bad.
sneaks it in
Except
on
when
you.
I'm bad, you know. Another ingredient I'll add to my bread is an egg. And it helps to bind things together, and it will help the rise too. And it also will help make a softer loaf. I use, this is our food that I brought for us to eat on our trip. But, let's see. This is, I made hamburger and hot dog buns. See, this bread has an egg in these. And they're just really, really soft. This is my little hot dog, well, it's sausage buns, but for us. But anyway, and I make all my biscuits with Spelt too. I'm very much off my thing, so I'll have to take a few to figure out. But see, it don't look like a whole wheat biscuit, but it don't look like a white biscuit either. But, and they taste, I mean, that's all we eat, you know, it's Spelt, like I said, so we love it. Let's see. It used to scare me to change anything in a recipe. Because, you know, I know when you're making bread, it depends on your water, your liquid to dry ingredient ratio of how it turns out and all that. But learning what texture you want your bread will help you to be able to know when you change things. Because I was scared to replace the sugar with honey. Because it'd be different if I was replacing the sugar with something else dry, but honey's going to add more liquid, you know. Or change and add butter instead of oil, or vice versa. I was always scared to do that, or even adding an egg, you know, to your recipe. Because what you could do if you were wanting to try an egg in your bread and you didn't want to change it a whole lot, if your recipe calls for a cup of water, put your egg in first, then add your water up to your 1 cup. You still have the same amount of liquid that way. Now, it will change. You still might need a little less flour by doing that, but you can change the ingredients to make it better for you or to taste different. And you'll adjust the flour at the end. Just like I showed y'all, you don't, because it calls for 3 cups of flour, you don't dump 3 cups of flour in. You know, and when you're dealing with your last cup of flour, just like if I would have dumped a half a cup of flour in that last mixing up, I would have had a hard time because it only took, you know, 2 3/4 cup of flour. It would have been hard to mix it. So, but that's how you can change your recipe, and just be careful when you're adding your last bits of flour, and know what texture you're aiming for with your bread. If you're used to making bread with white flour and whole wheat flour, you will notice a difference sometimes in the amount of flour you need. My Spelt that I'm using, I do notice that sometimes I use more flour, because the recipes that I've been making for years, like for the farmer's market and everything, it's usually about the same every time, you know, when I go to make those recipes. But I've noticed with the Spelt, it kind of depends on the day. And it may be because it's an ancient grain and it's more fresh than the flour that I was using for the farmer's market. But, so it, you know, you just have to be careful like that. But like I said, it's not a big deal. Just don't go dumping all your flour in one time. I haven't talked that much about sourdough, but I will tell you that I find using sourdough starter with these different flours gives much, much better results. In my opinion, it's the healthiest way to consume bread. And I told you that my first attempt was a flop with the sourdough bread. That was because I didn't understand about having an active starter. You know, I didn't even know what I was looking for with starters. And like we were talking about, with the internet, you can go and look at it now. But then, you know, I don't even think we had internet. Gosh, that makes me kind of sound like I'm an old person. I'm not. I'm really not. But, you know, I know, you know, which we had slow internet anyway. I probably wouldn't have tried to download a picture. But anyway, but we've got lots of videos on sourdough too. But it is important to have an active starter. But I do want to say this too, but as you're trying to get your sourdough starter going, like say mine's not active right now, because I've had it in the refrigerator over a year, and I do not recommend doing that. You know, I don't recommend doing it, but it still has a good smell. It's not molded, so I'm trying to bring it back to life because it does have the good flavor. So I'm feeding it a little bit at a time and everything, trying to get it going. But like if my sourdough bread here that I brought, I added yeast to it. You know, I did. I added yeast to it because it would have been like this and hard as a rock. So my point is, I hate throwing it away. You know, some people will say throw out some and keep feeding it. Throw out some and keep feeding it. I don't do that. I'll use it because it helps with my texture and it gives it the flavor. You know, it still gives flavor. It's just not active enough to raise my bread up. So let's see. I have.
How do you do that exactly? Like the starter you're not going to use?
Oh, the starter you're not going to use? I don't do that often because my method is feed it a little bit at a time. And so I know the way I teach to make a starter is to start with 2 tablespoons of milk, 2 tablespoons of flour, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. So you have just a little bit. And as you keep feeding, you'll increase that a little bit. And by the time you have enough to make something, it should be active. So there's no throwing away. That's just the way I do it. I developed that way.
Portions are a lot smaller. So
Yes, start with little portions. Why start with big portions? What difference would that make? Milk, it gets it more active quicker.
More active what?
Quicker?
Okay.
Yeah, because it's souring. You know, it's going to.
Raw milk?
Pardon me?
Raw milk?
No, I do not use raw milk in it. I might could, but I don't. Look in this book and see. I don't remember if the recipe is just for your discarded starter or if you know what it is. Let's see. All right, I really have went off course, so I gotta find my place. Okay. I want to tell you. I want to encourage y'all too. A lot of people are intimidated by sourdough. Don't be. The main difference is if you have an active starter or not. You're only going to be replacing one ingredient for the other for the longer rise time. I want to tell you this too. While I was doing my research too, I looked at my Nourishing Traditions cookbook, and I was looking up because I knew that she had written some about spelt in there, and she on her bread recipes she don't even do a double rise. It did not do a double rise, and I'm like, I like her, you know, because I will do that a lot of times. Because, you know, sometimes when you have your bread there, your first rise is like, wow, this is going to make great bread. You punch it down, put it in your loaf pan, and it don't do like that again. So a lot of times I don't do a double rise. And with my sourdough bread from now on, that's what I'm going to start doing. I'm just going to do like a 6-hour rise and be done with it, you know. So anyway, all right, so, all right, I'm going to put the white bread into the loaf now. And this is, if some of y'all weren't here, this bread is regular white bread that I used to make for the farmer's market. And the people at the Sun Oven booth are going to actually bake this. So if y'all want to go by and see it, and you can actually sample it after it's baked. Now, it has not risen the whole hour. This bread, you would let it rise for an hour, punch it down, put it in the loaf, let it rise for another hour. So they'll let it rise for another hour, but and it should do fine. But I always oil my hands when I put my bread into loaves. And I wanted to show y'all, you see how it is now? Look at that. Just by sitting that little bit of a time, the texture has totally changed. And I guess you could do that window pane thing almost. Not quite, but almost. But if it sat a little bit longer, you could. But you always put oil on your hands, unless you want the floury look, flour on it. But anyway, what I do with my bread to shape my loaf, I like the pretty dome. If you don't, that's fine. I like the way that looks. You can just put it in there and pat it down. But to make the dome, I just rock it in my hands like this. And so you see how that is like that? And you see I'm pinching it together like that. I'm going to put that side down right in the middle of my pan, and that should rise up. It'll fill up the pan. So there that is. I'll bring that over to them later. All right. Now I'm gonna roll out my pita bread.
That's my cue, right?
That's your, you know what though? Well, no, I'll cut this afterwards though. I'm gonna go ahead, yeah, that's your cue. I'm gonna roll out my pita bread. I'm gonna try and move this stuff where y'all can see.
Say something?
No, I was talking to them.
Okay.
If I forget, remind me I want to cut this bread and have it here where y'all can see the difference in the texture and if you want to taste it also. But I may forget. All right, one thing that I do is I use wax paper. And it works wonderful, and then you don't have to clean the counter. You can throw it away. My sister was like, because I started kind of using a cutting board. And my sister said, why don't you just use wax paper? And I hate to waste, but you know what? It's a lot easier just to throw this away than scrape it up off the counter. So I can afford wax paper. So, and what you want to do, and all right, this pita bread I made in the first class. Also, there's the recipes are up here if you wanted to take a picture or take one of the papers. I told them I much prefer with the pita bread to have it refrigerated, the dough to be refrigerated and then make it up. It's just easier to handle and everything. But I did not have the option because this. Now, it's still a sticky, gooey dough. And so, to be able to pick up, and this recipe, I've actually cut the recipe down. This will make about 6 pita breads. So if you've got a large family, you know, you might want to double it. And also, it stays good for about 2 weeks. But you're going to have to take some flour in your hand, and you're going to have to sprinkle it on the top. That's the only way you're going to be able to pick up a lump of it. And when I make it fresh like this, what I do, oh, and when you put the lid on it to let it rise, don't put it on all the way. Just kind of gently place it on there. But when you put it in the fridge, put it on there all the way. So anyway, this is real sticky. And so what I'll do is I'll roll it around in this flour. Usually I have my cup of flour sitting there and I'll roll it around in it some. And then I just take it with my hands and I start kind of spreading it out. And I just use a lot of flour with it. And then I just press it out as much as I can. And I keep flipping it over where I make sure it's good and coated with flour on both sides. And look, sometimes, and I may have to do it today, sometimes as I start rolling it, it really starts sticking bad to my rolling pin. So sometimes then I just ball it up and start over, you know, if it's that wet, you know. And sometimes when it's fresh made, it's like that. And I probably rolled this a little too much. That came up good. I was talking. I usually just roll a little bit, turn it over, roll a little bit to make sure it don't stick. And see, when you're using the wax paper, it's easier to pick it up too. You can just flip it over on your hand like that. And I use this, oh, I think I must have skipped that paragraph. We use this for pizza too. And I got that really thin. This is the best I think I've ever rolled it out. But we use it for pizza crust. I use it for we make sandwiches on it. That's one of our favorite sandwiches. In fact, when I was getting ready to make the bread and stuff for this trip, Tommy's like, oh, bring pita. I said, I'm making it at the thing. So we'll probably have pita sometime today because this is our favorite go-to bread. I've actually toasted it before and had it for breakfast. So anyway, Tom, we have brought our, what, babe? Oh, I have 5 minutes left. All right, Tommy has got our propane stove out there, and I'm gonna, well, let me just carry it over there. I'm gonna go stick this on the griddle right quick, and then I'm gonna come back in here, Tommy, for questions.
Okay.
So do you wanna,
Yeah,
just,
I want to film you going over there.
okay. Now let's go stick it out here. He's gonna
Question
watch
my
it.
genius.
He's gonna watch it for me. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Or am I gonna be in charge of cooking it?
Oh, you're in charge of cooking, right?
Oh, man.
You know what to do when it starts bubbling up and getting brown, just, you're gonna have to use your
All right,
fingers, just,
take this.
good. I'm gonna take. Okay, is there any questions?
Where do you buy your spelt bread, your spelt, or your spelt
My
flour?
spelt flour?
Yeah.
I get my spelt flour from Azure Standard. And Tommy's gonna put a link on our website. And it may already be on there, I'm not sure. But we get it from Azure Standard. It's a company out of Oregon, and they send trucks all over the United States. But specifically, one comes to me down in Mississippi, so you need it once a month. You place an order every 4 weeks. So, any other questions? Yes.
Do you talk about using spelt flour for like your breads and such, but do you use it for like cookies and cakes as well?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's my biscuits, yes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it like messed with it or anything, no?
It does perfectly fine.
Cool.
Do you ever grind it yourself?
I have not. I haven't. I've got a grinder and everything, but I have not. I think I would like to get some for long-term food storage. Ashley sells them in 25-pound bags, and there's one that's like ultra fine, and the other one is, there's two different kinds, but one is kind of more like whole wheat, where it's got the whole, it's not sifted, and then the other one is sifted a little bit, it's lighter. So what I do is I mix the two.
Yeah.
You know, so one's more like flour. And here's this right here, if y'all wanna come by, no, that's like real. This is my spelt flour, if you wanna come by and look at it, you're welcome to, and see how it looks. But, oh yeah, I wanna cut this bread too.
I, get my spelt from like Sprouts. I don't know if Sprouts is nationwide or not, but it's just a little store around us, and, it says sprouted spelt.
Oh, they say that's better for you now, I haven't gotten into doing sprouted bread, so.
Is there a store, Sprouts? The name of the store is called Sprouts Farmers Market. We're in Texas. I was really surprised to see it sprouted spelt. That's why I got it, because it's sprouted.
So here's your pita.
What do they have for everything?
Oh, that's nice.
And then, and another secret too, a trick, that's not secret, it's a trick that I do. I'll get a regular plate, and I'll put it on it, and I'll get one of my pot lids, because usually I'm making at least two. And, I'll get one of my, from my big pots, and I have it sit down and I put it over it, and so it kind of steams and it stays nice and soft. And even if it's like you're gonna make some up ahead, now I've not made any up for, for 3 days later, but like I have eaten them the next day. And so if you do that with the lid over it, it keeps them soft, and so then you can put them in a Ziploc, and so they stay soft to roll up. Because see, you can roll this up. See, that's what when I've made other ones, they wouldn't roll up. But see, this will roll up. I love it. But I think the secret is the sourdough and the starter and the sticky dough. So, any more questions? Yes, ma'am?
What's your website again?
I'm sorry?
What's your website again?
aldermanfarms.net.
I'm sorry, what was that?
aldermanfarms.net, ALDERMANFARMS.net. It's on my shirt.
Yeah. Very nicely done. Oh, do you cook your pita bread on like a griddle or
Yeah, Tommy, would you show
like
them
on your
the
fireplace
thing?
or not fireplace, but like your stove at home?
Show what?
Yeah, bring the pan, well, it might be too hot for me.
It's gonna be too hot.
Do you put any oil in your pan? Or
I did, and sometimes, if I'm making a few of them, the flour gets burned, I don't think I have anything in there. The flour will kind of get burned on there, so I'll scrape that off and maybe put a little butter on there.
Okay.
But not usually, this had nothing,
That's what I was wondering. That was
just the
good.
heat, Now, this bread was made Friday. And, just make it plain. Just make it plain bread, it will go stale.
Okay. Cool.
Now, one pro tip is if you're making a number of these, you may want to clean it after a few, you know, because you'll notice, you see the browning of the, you know, so that, you don't always, every time you take one off, there's stuff left on there, and stuff from the first one and the second one and the third one, after a little while, it's gonna get burnt.
Yeah, that's what
So, every few ones, we've learned, you need to wipe it off, you know, get the residue off of there. But
We had
yeah,
done a class one time where people came, Julie was one of the ones in the class, and that's what we learned that there.
Yeah.
That it kind of burned on there, so.
It's probably just my weird brain, but are you using it like a tortilla? Pita to me is like a pocket.
Yeah, and these will make a pocket, but I don't find them, in fact, the first one that I don't know if the grill is too hot or not hot enough, but my first one never does. But this is more like a tortilla, and this, I prefer it more like one, because I don't stuff them, but yes, I do have them sometimes when they cook up like that, but never the first one.
But it has more of a taste of a pita bread than a.
Yeah, because it's much thicker, you know, that's why I call it pita. I'm gonna be cutting up some of this bread, and I just wanna show y'all the different texture of it with the different flours. Any more questions? No?
Oh, yeah, what was that you said, Facilium?
Facilium. Oh, you want me to spell it wrong?
Basillillium.
It's on the baggie that we're passing around. It's
Okay.
Oh,
I wrote that.
well, I felt like you said it.
But she doesn't talk right,
Which
so you
is always
spelled it wrong.
dangerous.
I'm not gonna spell.
Because she eats with an F-A-R-K apparently.
Fork, F-O-R-K, that's how I say it, I know how to spell fork. Okay, this is the spelt.
Okay.
This is the little rye. This is whole wheat, now this is the, Wheat Montana Farms whole wheat, it's wheat, it's not einkorn. And then this is the white, look at the white, see, this is what we're used to, we're used to this airy, you know.
Dead
But
bread.
when you see this, you have to think, oh, that's bad for me, this is bad for me, I don't wanna eat that, but this is, you know,
It's
this is
beautiful
what
bread.
we're used to. This is what we're used to, so, anyway.
Thank you. Appreciate everything that you brought to our table today.
Thank you, I'm glad y'all came. Also.
You
I
told her about the discount code and all that?
No, I haven't said that for this class, and some people were in here again. We have,
You're overtime, so
this
make
is
it
our
quick.
new sourdough book, it's updated at guys, it's 50% off on our website, allredforms.net.
It's an ebook.
It's an ebook, you can print it out and put it in one of these things. All grid is a coupon code. Also, I printed out some of our other ebooks. The sourdough book is my older sourdough book. The same thing is in here plus more, but I'm still showing those for a little handful books for $5 each. There's an instant pot book and a sourdough book, and that recipe's there if y'all want to take one of those recipes and take a picture of it. And if you want to come taste the bread, come taste the bread.
aldermanfarms.net/ebooks.
Or take the picture of the back of your shirt.
Or take a picture of the back of my shirt and just navigate to the ebooks. Thanks for joining us. We're gone. See you later. Bye.